Courtesy of LeeThe Weinstein Company. 5 years after the French comedy drama The Intouchables became an international sensation, including a healthy $13 million theatrical return and the remake rights for the Weinstein Company, the Weinsteins have dipped back into the well with The Upside, an Americanization that accepts the original's crowd-pleasing formula as holy writ. That means all the flaws of the original film are present, the lurching swings between irreverence and sentimentality, a reliance on stereotypes, and racial politics that could charitably be described as quaint, but two strong lead performances go some distance toward alleviating them. As a rich quadriplegic and a parolee hired to be his unlikely caretaker, respectively, Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart have a relaxed comedic chemistry that may not validate the film's sickly sweet romance, but does make it go down easy. There's no reason to believe worldwide audiences won't open up their wallets a second time. Even so, The Upside feels like a throwback to the musty racial fantasies of 80s sitcoms or the white patronage of Driving Miss Daisy. Director Neil Burger and screenwriter John Hartmere haven't done enough to tweak the stereotypes either character brings to the table, especially Hart's Del, an ex-con from the project who's short on child support payments and long on uncultured vulgarity. After a paragliding accident turns him into a quadriplegic, Cranston's Phil chooses to hire the grossly unqualified Del as an act of rebellion and fatalism. With his physical disability joining hand in glove with the mental handicap of losing his wife to cancer, Phil has lost the will to live and figures that Del seems most likely to carry out his do not resuscitate edict should his health take a turn. It doesn't take long for this odd couple to find a groove. Phil introduces Del to opera, modern art, kumquats and the Porsche he has tucked in the garage. Del takes Phil out of his ivory tower to appreciate the humbler pleasures of hot dogs, soft-serve wheat and Aretha Franklin. In the tradition of another Americanized comedy, Three Men and a Baby, there are gags about Del's ineptitude as a caregiver, including some early feeding miscues and an excruciating comic set piece about changing a catheter. But as Del settles into the job, the racial and class differences between the two men become an asset. Del shakes Phil from the dreary sterility of his New York City penthouse while Phil offers Del stable financial footing and a wider set of possibilities. Whenever The Upside gets away from the central relationship, however, the laughs disappear and the syrup accumulates. Nicole Kidman brings a high-strung integrity to the role of Yvonne, a Harvard-educated businesswoman who's chosen to sideline her career to look after Phil, but their obvious love connection is kicked too far down the 126-minute road. Worse still are Del's efforts to reconnect with his ex-Asian Naomi King and their son Jahidi Winston, which are based less on his steady presence in their lives than problems that money can solve. If there's a subtler point to be made here about money as the root of domestic strife, the film doesn't have the patience to evoke it. The Upside isn't a serious or credible treatment of the disabled, just as it isn't a serious or credible film about bridging the racial divide, because, like The Intouchables, it turns its based on a true story premise into cliched and synthetic handkerchief soaker. But Hart gets to open up into a rangier performance that adds sincerity and heart to his manically funny persona, which still gets plenty of latitude. And after a series of grim roles post-Breaking Bad, Cranston rediscovers the mischievousness that he hasn't accessed enough since Malcolm in the Middle. He can only move his neck and his face, but he plays Phil with a disarming glint in the eye. So little has been done to update or refresh The Intouchables for American culture or a new audience that The Upside has no integrity as a separate piece of work. The casting alone is all that's keeping it from sinking into a cynical act of franchise burnishing. That may be enough for the Weinsteins to return their investment, but Hart and Cranston deserve a better vehicle than this used model.